Hey everybody, we're at Milkshake Monday Backdrop, the premiere episode. This is totally unscripted. I am Anita Helm, and we have with us tonight Faith Helm, who is my youngest daughter, and she had a great idea of us actually having a venue where those who have questions on the Milkshake Monday God's Word Explained episodes could actually just have a conversation with me. And we are unscripted, like I've said before. We are in a studio that I have dogs, so the dogs are choosing right now to play. But it's just very conversational and relaxed, and it's an opportunity. So I'm going to yell at the dogs in a minute because they're acting a fool. But Faith, if you want to explain the premise of what you were saying for Milkshake Monday Backdrop while I kind of get the dogs in check.
Yeah. So,
Hey.
The backdrop basically is, or this premise basically is to break down some of the things that are being taught in Milkshake Mondays that can go more in depth and just have a real conversation. No makeup, no, facade or any type of performance in a way. Just being real and honest and transparent as possible when it comes to what is being taught every Monday on Milkshake Monday.
Okay. So I don't know if we want to let that stand or redo it. What do you think?
You have to probably close the door again and or probably have, I don't know, they're really tired. I mean, they were tired after they did their walk, so they're up now because you just came back home.
Okay, we'll let this fly. It's the first one. We're gonna work some kinks out. We'll figure that out. Or you want me to redo it? Because
I don't think you necessarily need to.
Okay, where are we? Are we on YouTube?
No, you're on Facebook.
Facebook. Okay. Oh my goodness! Hold tight. Guys, I gotta take a break. Come here. Come. So Milkshake Monday Backdrop. Faith has not been really keen about the name, but I came up with this, so we're going to go with it right now. So this is our first. I don't know if we want this to be our first or we want to go start this up again. This is real because you said no makeup. I wouldn't have had makeup, but I just got in the house and I had totally forgotten that this was going to be our first night, even though I'd already said to people earlier. But that's how things fly sometimes here at the house.
Yeah, so the thing about it too, studio is studio we have in a sense. Just like a church, where church is not a building, it's the people. So studio is not a building, it's really wherever we have a discussion like this.
Yeah. So I'm totally fine with that. I wanted it to be Faith because when I originally started Milkshake Monday, I wanted to talk to people who were not understanding. And so I know Faith initially when we started 8 years ago. Can you believe that? She was behind the camera, and when she was getting ready to go to college, I totally freaked out because I didn't know how I could push the button and set it all up. And then she kept saying, Mom, I thought it was supposed to be 15 minutes. And I kept going longer and longer, and now sometimes it's 55 minutes. So I can understand how people get a lot of information, and then they're like, I got lost after the first 20 or something. I hope I don't do that a lot. But so I understand why this kind of session is useful. So let me stop talking because I talk a lot. But this time I want to listen to what the questions are, and I will answer whatever you want to.
So more or less not going to be an interview type of setting. It's just basically real talk. So, of course, depending on people's timing and when they listen to Milkshake Monday, preferably me, I listen to it in the morning when I have to go to work, drive to work, basically. So I wrote some down because, of course, my age, yes, I may be young, but my mind It's going. So I had to write down some notes.
From which session are you going to tell us from?
Yeah, so it's how to, this is from Milkshake Mondays, how to handle bad news. That's the episode name. And you can check that out on YouTube as well as Spotify. But key things on when I took on the title of how to deal with bad news. What was funny enough is I was just being handed unfortunate news that I tend to like take it in. So it was just a really great time and alignment and dropping that episode, which was really great to hear.
Did I know what the bad news was?
No, of course.
Oh, you still don't.
Well, no, I don't think it's. And again, when we'll go over this, like we'll see too. When I explain the kind of like vague situation, it wasn't really bad news when I changed my perspective and realized that it was just God just really blessing me to see something that I needed to see. But I took some notes. So one of the things I saw or noted was your steps that you were giving when dealing with or receiving bad news. And the key one, of course, step one was hearing the news and understanding its significance to you. And I think that's really important to just see or to hear, because I think a lot of times, I know for me in the beginning, when I used to hear bad news of like, you see your grades, you hear something that you, of course, don't like, your automatic you have to, or for me when I was younger, is give a reaction. And those reactions, I would regret them later, probably like 5 minutes later, like, I shouldn't have done that. It was the heat of the moment. I shouldn't have, I regret it, basically. So in just hearing that and hearing the news and seeing how it's significance to you, how do you think we could handle it as not just age-wise, how can we handle it, or how can we relate it back to what you're teaching us?
Well, I think there's something I get from what you just said is that when you first hear it, it hits you in a certain way, but I think if all of us, whatever age group, could just take a pause. Yeah. Just take a beat. Hear it and absorb what it is. And who's telling you it? Yeah. Do they have bad intent? Yeah. Are they trying to hurt you, attack you, bring you down? And even if they are you trying to show them, hey, I don't care about what you're saying, I don't agree with what you're saying? Or just take a moment just to say, okay, and that's why I said, not only understand it, but what does it mean to you? In the case of if it's something with your job, does it mean I'm going to lose my job? Are they giving my criticism of my work that I'm not good? So you're already having that moment of interpreting something. And when you first hear something, we're so quick to react and give a defense. And I think that if we kind of just slow down and take that beat and even say, help me understand, God. What do you want me to do here? I think that would be really instrumental for all of us. Myself included. I mean, and just like you said, the timing. I got bad news the day after. Yeah. And I just said, as they were getting ready to say something, I said, I just taught a teaching on how to handle bad news. And he said, that's good. Which told me I'm getting ready to get some news. So I think that even then I said, I took a beat and I said, God, whatever it is, you got me. I just had to say that. You got me, whatever it's going to be.
I think what you just said too, like what pinpoint is, when you said asking the Lord for, to summarize it, patience, that guidance of when you're receiving that bad news. Because I think a lot of us, I know for me per se, I have a problem with asking. Even with human, even coming to God, it's like asking, like, Lord, I need your help. Like we always think, I know for me, I always think me. I can do it. But I'm not. I'm at the point now. It's like I was never this strong. I need Him more than ever. I cannot do this alone. I cannot do this this life, this journey by myself. No matter if I have family, friends, supporters, all that stuff, I can't do that by myself. I can't do that with men, of men in this world. I need the Lord with me, and I need to ask him, because he knows more than anything what is happening with my life, and he sees things, and he knows what the path I'm going into, and how probably handling these bad news is how it's preparing me, or maybe it's testing for what's to come.
Yeah.
So that's like the key thing that I see when I receive bad news, or when I receive significant news that could impact me, I just settle with it for a second and just take it in, and not have these reactions. Like, I always joke with you and say, the reactions when you hear something, you're like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, or you're like, oh wow, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, sometimes you never know if it's a good reaction or a bad reaction, because it's similar, but when it is, it's like it's a reaction that's going to impact somehow after you finish that phone call. Yeah.
And you've been telling me to change that, and I
it's okay.
I have to work on it.
It's who you are at this point.
You're right.
It's who you are at this point.
Right. Because and what's funny is that happens more in my personal life and home, whereas where I'm at work, I'm like, I'm like a stone poker face sometimes. Yeah. But at home, I was like, oh man, what? Those reactions just come out because I just need that avenue just to say, what's going on?
Yeah. So that was what I saw, or what I heard in the step 1. Another thing you also noted in your step 2, I'm not going to go down the 10, but I'm going to pinpoint some of the ones I took out of it, was understand what news means for your for you personally. Go deeper into that, because I kind of wanted an example in how you meant understand what news means for you personally.
So if somebody calls me and tells me I'm about to get kicked out of my house, and they tell me that, and they explain the timing of it, and then they come back and say, I'm about 2 months behind in my rent, and I need $1,400.
Too personal.
I'm just making up something.
Oh my
gosh.
I'm
saying, they're telling me the bad news for them, but they're saying it in a way that they want me to understand it, which it is bad news. It's not my bad news, but they're my relative or friend, and so I feel bad for them. But they're calling me, like you've always joked at the different family reunions, if you get into jail, who do you call? Sometimes when people call with bad news, it's to me, and I'm reading between that, taking that beat, are they telling me their bad news because they are asking me, they don't use the ask. They need to ask God, but they come to me. Are they asking me, hey, Anita, can you loan me some money? Can you give me some money? Or do you want my encouragement? Do you want me to pray for you? Do you want me to tell you some scriptures? Want me to tell you some resources? But I get these texts, I get these calls, and they say things to me. I have a caring heart, and I love, and I'm a giver. However, sometimes I do need to stop and receive and understand it, but then say, why are they calling me? Why are they telling me? Are they telling me with a different motive? They're not just telling me for information purposes. They haven't asked, but they haven't asked it. And so that's when the discernment of God has to come in to say, Anita, are you going to be a servant of the Lord and help? Or is God saying, I need them to start coming to me, and you can't be their savior? So that's a good example as I can think of to tell you sometimes.
That's an actual spot on example, because I think I can only speak for myself again. I'm gonna stop saying that, because again, I'm just gonna speak from the heart. But that is for sure what I have endured for some time, of people really bringing something that is personal for them and bringing it to me, and sharing that bad news and bringing me down, which it taints the relationship not only, but it taints my reaction. Because I will have a great day, finish working, oh my gosh, entering into the weekend. You miss some phone calls, you get a huge paragraph of text messages, and after you finish reading the first paragraph, you're like, why bring this to me? I'm a 23-year-old. You are probably older, yes, but why bring this news to me to bring me down? Like, bring me into something. Yes, I am your sister in Christ, possibly. I mean, and sister in Christ for sure, but, you know, you had a reason and a purpose in it. And I'm a nice person, like you said, but
Yeah.
I just started doing the D&D of Do Not Disturb, because I think a lot of times, I think people have definitely taken advantage of me when it comes to, let me share this bad news with another person and then feel bad for me and see if they can fix my troubles, fix my problems. And that's that is how I took that, but I also wanted an explanation on that, because I thought maybe I could have something different versus what you had. But that is definitely, when you describe it, it makes sense that, yeah, that's personal.
And a lot of parents have that same hang up.
Yeah.
Kids bring them trouble and the bad news of their bad behavior, and the parents get into this cycle of fixing it all the time.
Yeah.
And then when the parents get tired of it and says, time out, I'm tired of it, then they go to another person who is an enabling. I mean, when you talk about addiction, you're enabling them to keep coming to you. Why do they keep coming? Because you always help them. You always fix it. And it's like they never learn to go to God because they go to you.
Yeah. And that's never, that's not going to fix anything. Skipping to step 4, you said inform others about the message. And I'm going to go in deeper in saying that. Like how we just discussed when it comes to receiving bad news from a person, them sharing their message of bad news with you. When you're informed about other people's message, how can we, I know we said, discernment for sure, but how can we reject those people? Like if I'm in a dinner with my so-called friends and they're telling me their news, and sometimes I'm so used to it, I'm like, how can I gently say, you gotta do this yourself? Like, I mean, you gotta figure this out yourself. You can't, I don't want this on me. Like, I don't want to be your fixer up, or I don't want to be, like you said, with the parents being for their children, enabling them. How can we stop that? Or how can we better that when we receive those messages?
Well, you have this choice too of, you get the message, and what Christ had done, he didn't say, I'm getting ready to go back to see Lazarus and Mary and Martha in 2 or 3 days. He didn't say that.
Yeah.
He just says he's sick.
Yeah.
He repeated back what the message said, and he said, this is not going to be unto death. But there's 2 pieces to that. He just repeated back, like if your friends or whatever say, whatever it is, you repeat it back, yeah, I heard that you said this. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to be in prayer to find out what the Lord's going to do about that. Doesn't mean you're taking it on.
Yeah.
But I'll be in prayer. Jesus was God, so he knew immediately this is not going to end to death. But in your case, you got to, again, take a pause. Yeah. You can say, I hear what you're saying. You're saying this. So they can hear the news that you heard it. But that's it. Stop. Full stop. That you can say, yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's a tough situation. You can say that. Yeah. Doesn't say you have anything to do to fix it. But you've heard it as a friend. You've heard it as a brother, as a sister in Christ. You've heard it. And you'll be in prayer that the Lord would give them understanding for how to resolve it. Yeah. And if should he say something to you that you have a part in it, but you're not taking it on because you don't know that God has told you to take it on. You want to be in his will.
And I think that's very key, in his will. Mm-hmm. I think so many of us, it was so funny, is especially with this teaching within this week, I was talking to a fellow person of mine that I know of, and she kept saying, I'm a people pleaser, I'm selfless, but I always want to fix other people's problems when they bring it to me because I feel like I'm doing the Lord's work. I feel like I'm doing the Lord's work. When I kept hearing her say, I feel like I'm doing the Lord's work. I feel it. Have you asked?
Yeah.
That was the thing I kept saying. Have you asked? And she was like, I haven't, but it was like, I'm doing it. And I said, are you tired? And she's like, I am tired. It's like, I'm not going to speak like I know, but it's like, doing that is a lot. Like, you're taking on other people's problems. You're taking on other people's, bad, messaging or, bad news. And you're taking it upon yourself to handle that. And I thought that was just like, that's why I asked, how can we do better with that?
Yeah. Well, when you started talking about your friend's situation, there's a few things that came to my mind. Cast all your cares on the Lord. Take those burdens to Him. On His shoulders, He can bear them. We can't. Mm-hmm. When we start to keep thinking that we are the fixers of people's problems, that's, there's one thing for the Lord to say, be not weary in well-doing. However, but there's discernment.
Yeah.
Well-doing is not trying to take care of everybody's problems and be their caretakers. And people are very, takers, receivers, and they will take advantage. And you said that word early on, people take advantage.
Yeah.
But there's some level that she should ask, because feelings can get you in trouble. Feelings will get you hooked up with a demon.
Yeah.
But you need to go to ask God, Lord, is this your will for me to help in this situation? And how do you want me to help? And how do you want me to put some boundaries around what I need to be doing?
Yeah.
And if she's not choosing to ask, she's choosing to find herself in a predicament where she's fatigued, possibly going to be deceived and broken and broke, like no money, and gray hair falling out, because she's just letting herself be taken to the cleaners and not really being discerning.
And I do think too with that, I always say with Albany too, like she always gets on me when I say no, like I say no because I choose peace, but also I just have I have to process it and see if I do want to do something or not. And sometimes it's good. Like, I do that with my friends too. Like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. And it benefited me because when I said no, things happened, and I said, God, thank you for saving me from that situation that I was thinking of going, but I said, no, let me ask Him. Let me ask the Lord first before making that. So that was really keen on thinking of that. Switching back to, because again, Milkshake Monday started in the beginning, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45, 55. Now it might be an hour the more we speak. So step 6, it said, finish your assignment before reacting to bad news. Can we say news in general? I put that in note because when I was taking notes, people always say, what is news? And because I shared this with one of my friends, she was getting very technical, and I was like, news is like, I just heard something, pass by, and that's news. So when you say finish your assignment before reacting to bad news, what do you mean by that? So
Christ had the assignment to come and tell people about who He was.
Yes.
And to heal and to proclaim Himself and to do signs and wonders. Mm-hmm. And He was in a location doing that.
Yeah.
When He got the message from Mary and Martha, and it was information, it was a message. I could have said the bad messages, bad information. News is information you didn't know that you're coming to knowledge of it. So He had the choice to say, do I finish proclaiming who I am? So in our case, if God has us working on something as a mission, or we're working on something to get ready to do a Bible study, or we're working on something as a program, whatever it is, you have to still go before the Lord and say, am I supposed to stop all that and go and focus on this new message of information that I just gotten? Or do you want me to finish? I can make it very simple. I'm feeding the homeless. Mm-hmm. And it's from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. I get a text message to say something's happened with a loved one. Mm. a pause would be, God, do you want me to stay with my commitment?
Yeah.
For 2 to 4 and finish it? Because if I leave, there's a gap. People won't get fed. People won't get the ministry. People won't get this. This situation that they've sent me a text, I have to absorb it. I have to see how does it relate to me. Is it immediacy that I need to be there, or I need to pray about it? And then when I finish my commitment with this same situation, 4 o'clock, I can say, Lord, do you want me to go there? Do I need to go and make a phone call, let them know I'll be finished at 4. I will see what the Lord wants me to do and check in after. But by that time, you've given yourself a minute to do what you're doing, to help the people, minister to who's in front of you. Because even the people that you try to run and save, they don't even always appreciate that you're going to do that, and you've changed your plans, and then somebody could have really needed your witness that day, but you've gone to try to be the savior to somebody else who won't even possibly appreciate what you're doing. Probably has already called 5 other people or text 5 other people to see what they did, and then you could get over there all discombobulated, and it's like, what you here for? Oh, I took care of that. Oh, I didn't need you. And you're like, what? Yeah. So some things, if you already have your plans, that's why you have to engage God. What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Stay or go? And you have to give a minute, because God's not going to say, okay, Faith, I'm going to stop what I'm doing to give you a 2-second answer. You have to let yourself settle down and take that moment to let the Spirit of God that lives within you give you some understanding. And if you don't have a peace about staying to finish, then maybe the Spirit is telling you to move. But a lot of times, if the Spirit has directed you to do something, if you're already on an assignment from Him, He's not going to say, oh, forget my assignment, and all of a sudden go do something that man has directed you to do. So that's why you have to know when you're moving left or right, if the Spirit is directing you or not, or you're just doing something because of fun of it.
Yeah. Or I can also touch on the devil wanting the distraction.
Yep, the distractions.
You actually doing your assignment the Lord has for you, and instead it's like, no, actually, my mom, she's in the hospital. The distraction from what He actually wanted you for your assignment, the assignment He had planned for you. And that also is like a test too. It's like, or will you be distracted and focus on the distraction rather than what I have? Yeah. Because that distraction will distance you from me. So yeah, that's a good example. So the last one, and then I'll get to further my questions. Step 10, you said use every bad news message as an opportunity to glorify God. When you said that, I thought of testimony, because a lot of times when we go to worship, and I honestly always question this. We should always have, everyone has a testimony weekly, if anything, because we made it through a week. We all have difficulties. But I always found it so curious at the end of the year, or the beginning of the year, we always have the testimony time frame of, if anybody has a testimony, please stand up. But I thought it was very important to say, anytime you have, I always say this too, a L, or now these days, an L is a lesson. An L, you learn from it, and it's a lesson to take back. But I think so many times, a lot of people, they think of L's as like, I'm not worthy. Take it to heart. Like, I received this bad news. Like, oh my gosh, my whole day is ruined. But how can we, an example, glorify the Lord? Or can you give an example of how that has done it for you? How you have gotten bad news and have glorified the Lord through that?
I'll give you the real example. I just recently went through a transition. The bad news that I did the teaching, this exact teaching, and then I found out that the contract I was working with was ending. Yeah. The news that I heard that was not something I'd love to have kept my contract to keep that income. But at the same time, I said, this may be the open door that God wants me to walk through for me to do more for Dōes Productions and go and reach people. And I had a piece to say He was going to take care of it. It was going to be not looked at as totally awful news, but I'm going to teach us power of the pivot. this is him giving me a new direction change.
Yeah.
And even though there are things that are painful or I didn't expect or didn't want, I had to give a different lens to it to say, if the Lord is allowing something, there's something around the corner that he needs me to be positioned in the right place. And he wants me to have the right mindset of heart and trust and not doubting him that it's going to be okay. Yeah. And even with when it came to the sickness with your father, that was news that was hard. But at the same time, we took it. It says this is going to be an opportunity to go through something that's very hard and painful and heartbreaking. But if we could share love, understanding, cooperation, and kindness in the midst of doing that. And I do believe that even with what happened with my job or with your father's sickness, that there was a level of compassion and kindness that I took as the opportunity, because there were people who were upset and freaking out and all those situations, but just had to have a heart to say, God is using this for something. It's an opportunity to witness Christ. Somehow, some way, heartbreaking that it may be, disappointing that it may be, if we could share love or share Christ, whatever little inkling, it would be worth the pain of whatever the news was.
Yeah. And when you, going through the steps that I went through, step 1 through 10, you kind of touched on it, and you also touched on your episode, fear and faith. When you're in those situations of, I'm lost my job, what am I going to do? Fear. Worry comes in. And you're stressed and depression of like, what is next for me? What can I do? You're receiving this bad news, but you're glorifying the Lord, saying, thank you, God, that I was able to have this job for so long, that I was able to meet these people, that I'm able to have, at this time, at this moment, my business and have a plan or, setting a plan up for what you have on your purpose for what's to come. Right. And I think a lot of times we put fear over faith rather than faith over fear. Yeah. Which I think is very much, it kills. And I think that too, it again, distraction. Creates a distraction. And I can speak for me when I didn't have a job coming out of college, I was putting fear over faith so much because I was like, I'm getting out of college. I need a job. I need to pay these loans. I need money in my pockets. Because the loan people were saying, hey, we're going to come at this month. I'm like, stop it. I don't have a job yet. And I was putting so much fear and worry on myself rather than getting on my knees and praying to the Lord and asking the Lord, I trust in you. I have faith in you. Like I always have in my room, Jeremiah 29 verse 11. His plans versus my plans are different. I wanted to have a job ASAP when I got out of, you know it. Yeah, so I mean, I played the facade and I'm working on it and stuff like that. But I really wanted a job that was coming out, and it took 3-4 months for it to come. But the thing about it was I did not know. That was all by God. That was all God, truthfully. That was a testimony, truthfully, of how that job came about. But I think for us, we put fear and we think, I don't have time to be on my knees. I don't have time to pray to the Lord. I don't have time for this faith. I see a lot of people distance themselves from faith and put more energy in their worries and their fears and try to figure out by themselves, being independent rather than being dependent on the Lord, which is so, when I was younger in worship, I always remembered when Dad would say, we need to stop having the independent mindset. We're so independent because the worldly wise, they say, oh, you got to be independent, you got to do this. But really you need to be dependent. If we flip the switch and start saying, you know what, I'm going to be dependent on the Lord. I'm going to put my trust in the Lord. I'm going to put my faith in the Lord. I am not going to have this fear consume me. I am not going to have this worry consume me. I think we would be better and we would actually take these steps of how to deal with bad news better than what we are doing. Because when we hear bad news, we automatically have an attitude. I kid you not. I haven't spoken to you all this week because
I know.
I was like,
I didn't know what it was about. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I was like, because I didn't want to put that energy of something that I was dealing with personally, but how I deal with bad news is internalizing it and actually processing it, because I don't want to push that on someone else. If you're having a good time or good energy, and I don't want to push that on somebody else. But I thought that was very interesting how you touched on it. And I was like, we always have a battle with fear over faith, and it's never, we always say fear before faith, which was very much interesting. But also I saw that, I also noted too, on this cheap paper that I had, fear often drives our reactions when we receive bad news. Explain.
Okay. With all the things that you were just sharing, when you think of fear, the greatest fear that we ultimately have is death.
Yeah.
And the reason why I said whether you're dying physically or your finances are dying or you're losing your house, you're losing something where it's dying and it's not having success.
Yeah.
And we always talk about, we want you to have success, get your college degree, get your house, get your this, get your house, your cars, your husband, all that. But they never talk about, they talk about the American dream, but they don't talk about the American nightmare. Fear is the nightmare of everything that you've ever wanted or ever that you have falling apart and going away.
Yeah.
So when you go through this fear and faith, you have more experience in the fear than you have in the faith. Faith is something that you don't see. You don't see God. You read his word if you read his word, if you understand his word. If you pray, you don't even know. Some people are like, I don't know if I could even believe in what I'm praying because I'm not seeing an answer right away.
Yeah.
That job, I didn't see it right away like I wanted it. I had to wait. And then once I got it, I had to be in more faith with it because it was crazy stuff going on.
Yeah.
However, you have to make a decision. I use the word who for the faith. Who are you trusting in? Who's got the control? You? No. You don't know what's around the corner. You don't know who's coming with a new message.
Yeah.
But God does, and he knows what he's already prepared for you. So that's why when it comes to faith, you have to start with the pause and who. When it comes, the news comes, don't say anything, don't react. Just say, who's still in charge?
Yeah.
Who's got me? Who loves me? Who's got all the protection and provision for me? And if you start to focus on the who and not the what of that message or how it's going to affect you and all the things in your mind, it's going to the nightmare. You're going through the nightmare scenario of everything going wrong, of the American dream just unraveling and you collapsing and what does it mean and what are people going to think? And you just go through that nightmare dream after dream instead of saying, no, I'm going to know who's in charge. God's still on the throne.
Yeah. I can't stand the word American dream anyways.
Right, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
They don't want things that people want and desire.
Yeah.
And when it starts to unravel, fear comes in because you don't want to lose what you don't want to lose. You don't want to give up what you have.
Yeah.
And you don't want to go down a path that you hadn't planned for.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think so many times we want to have, like when people a lot of times say, would you like to see the past or would you like to see the future? And a lot of times we always say, oh, I would rather see the future. We want to know so much. We want to be 10 steps ahead of things that we really don't. We shouldn't be 10 steps ahead on.
Just
stuff like that.
be present. Be in the day. Yeah.
Yeah, you're the second person today who's actually said that to me. Which
Ooh,
is
okay. That may be prophetic.
Yeah. I also took a note. When we can fall into depression when we operate in fear rather than faith. And I noted this too. Bad news will cause you to be in the wrong place. But God says, why are you here? And you touched that when you were talking about Elijah at Mount Sinai. Or Mount Si, sorry. S-I. If I can't pronounce it right, I always... Oh, I wasn't doing it for you. I mean, I'm just joking. I'm joking. Joking. Yeah, when you said that, when it comes to we can fall into depression when we operate in fear rather than faith, I think depression is very serious, of course, but I think it's difficult when when you talk to a person who's dealing with it, or when you know a person dealing with it, but they don't express that, hey, or want to admit, hey, I'm going through a difficult time. And majority of that depression is coming from fear and worry. And I could take the example of losing my job, especially in this type of climate. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going into a mass depression, which unfortunately sometimes can go into, suicidal. But how can we as Christians, but people of Christ, because even people who are believers in Christ, not only we always hear, I'm going to pray for you, Lord, the Lord got you and stuff like that. How can we come together in those times, or even when we're individually by ourselves and, we're in closed doors of having that depression, and I'm not talking to my mom, I'm not talking to my friends, I'm depression. How can we better that for ourselves or get out of that? I mean, is that a personal, or a one-on-one conversation with the Lord, but how can we dive more deeper into having those conversations that, hey, I am depressed and I have fear and worry, and not have someone say, judge you or say, oh, I'm going to pray for you, and just go on to the next topic. How can we go in deeper? Is that a one-on-one conversation?
I think it's a 3-part situation.
Mm-hmm.
The person that's going through the pain of depression, the fear, the internal communication, that person has to remind themselves they need to have a conversation with God.
Yeah.
And that part. So, but then there's a part, if we look at Elijah, he was afraid and he ran.
Yeah.
So that person is on his own quest by himself, thinking he's all by himself. In the person who's going through depression, they have to understand they're not by themselves. Mm-hmm. That they're not alone in whatever the struggle is. But what Elijah did, which some people do, the servant that was with him, walking with him, he distanced himself. So that shows you depression was starting to happen because he didn't even want to be with anybody else. Mm-hmm. And when the servant example, or the friend or the parent or the whoever sees that person wants to distance himself, they have to kind of keep a pulse of what's going on and say, yeah, he wants distance, but I got to go check on him.
Yeah. Because
what happened was Elijah in that situation ran so far away from the servant didn't even know where he was. Mm-hmm. But God was the only one that knew where he was. And Elijah wasn't having a conversation with God. Mm-hmm. So God had to intervene and send that angel to say, I need you to stop sleeping, because that's what you do in depression, and eat something and drink something. And then you can go back to sleep, because you're going to be, have this journey. And then kicked him again and said, okay, eat and sleep again. So God intervened, but God could use us to intervene, to say, hey, I see you. I know you're not acting the same way that I normally see you when you're up, when you're okay. And I'm not going to say normal. I'm saying when you are okay, you're on a plane that is an even keel of understanding that God's got you mode, mm-hmm. versus you think whatever bad news is, you're going to hold it so you don't upset anybody else, bring their energy down, as you say. But God is saying, there is no energy that you can ever come to me with that mm-hmm. it's going to change my position of being all powerful. And I've given you that all powerful. And whatever's going on, I've got you. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to keep you. And there's nobody going to snatch you out of my hand. So if the friends or family members don't come back and say, okay, I've let you have your few days. Now, I'm here and I'm going to give you what God is sharing with me to say, we're going to make this. We're going to get through this. You are not by yourself, and you're not going down, because he's not going to let you go down. It's no job. There's no sickness. There's no anything going on that he cannot handle with you. Mm-hmm. And whether it's you and him one-on-one. And the thing that I took away in my story from reading or writing Milkshake Mondays, there was a time that I distrusted God. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't wait on God, the timing of God. And I had gotten so into listening to Satan's voice in my head, internalizing mm-hmm. that things were not going to be done like I wanted, like my heart's desire. And with depression, you are listening to the voice of the enemy and just saying, God, I don't even want to hear you. I would rather trust that all the bad things that Satan is saying mm-hmm. is going to happen, and all the bad things about me, and it's my fault, and this is all because of this. That's all Satan. And it's like, Satan says, she don't even want to listen to God. She don't want to have the people to encourage her. She or he wants to just keep it inside for me to talk to him. And when you're only listening to the voice of the father of lies, all that lying is pouring into you, and you're getting more and more depressed, and you're like, I just want to shut it out. So let me take some drugs, let me take the alcohol, let me take the sleep, let me just bury myself in nonsense, and then push everybody away. And that's one the point that Elijah started just sleeping. I would rather die. Just kill me. When he did have the conversation to God, he said, could you just kill me? He hadn't been listening to God all that time and listening to Satan, so all the thing he thought was to make this better is, just kill me. And God had to just get him reoriented and come back and have him on that mountain. Have him provide his needs physically to eat and sleep and drink the water, but then take him on that mountain. And he said he kept sending him messages, but those messages were never about his voice until that small, still voice said, I got this person, I got this work you want you to do, I got this work you want to do, I want you to appoint somebody else because you're so out of it. And and he took him up to heaven. He said, I see you as a servant of God, but I'm taking you up to heaven because you're all out of whack. And I got to get you back into knowing who I am. And apparently on this planet here, you're not. But he never killed him. He just took him up with him to have more one-on-one time. But if we could, as people, get to, and not saying, oh, I'm just praying for you, engage and say, hey, you know who you are. You are the child of the living God. He created you for a purpose. Yeah. And there's nothing that any messenger of Satan, whether job, whether illness, whatever, is going to change that. And we have to start having those conversations. And even though the person said, I don't want to hear from you, Anita, or whoever, you got to say, okay, I'm coming over. Yeah. Because it's time. I don't let you have your space of, and I call it, it's a warfare that you're not even being prepared for. You took your armor off, put it aside. So I'm coming with my armor, my sword, and I'm going to remind you, put the helmet back on. Put the shield of faith back on. Put your belt. Put your breastplate. Yeah. Put it back on, because as you have it laid on the side, this enemy is coming and getting fiery darts. And guess what? Why you bleeding? You bleeding? It's because you ain't got your armor on. Yeah. And you need to get back into the game. And hey, I'll let you get your armor, and I'll come before you, and I'll walk with you. But we got to get your armor back on, because you just letting the fiery darts come too close, and the spirit inside you is saying, I can take this enemy. Yeah. You thinking that the enemy's bigger than me, and the spirit of God saying, oh, no.
And I think that's why it's important to have brothers and sisters in Christ who are mentors, or who are there for those in those situations, who probably God given that assignment to them to intervene and have those discussions and again remind them, put your armor back on and stop being you're self-inflicting your wounds on yourself because you don't have that on. And I think that's really important for sure.
Yeah, because God is not defenseless, and He certainly doesn't want us to be defenseless.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, this has been great. Do you have any other questions? This was very in-depth. I hope it's been beneficial.
Yeah, it's been beneficial. It's been a long day.
It has. It has a long day. It's been a long day for both of us. We work, and even for what this is, I thank you, because it was because of you we started Milkshake Monday, and I got a call today that's from somebody who had not been sleeping. And I did a teaching back when Aunt Yvonne had died called Sleeping Through the Storms. So I happened to send it to her for another widow, but she ended up listening to it. And she sent me a message. She sent me a message, and she called me and said, I slept till 10:30 this morning. And I didn't understand what the context was. And she said, after listening to Sleeping Through the Storms, I slept till 10:30 this morning. And I just want you to know I got some sleep after listening to your teaching. And she said, you're making a difference. So because of your sharing about needing more information for clarity, Milkshake Monday got started. And now I believe, even in this conversation with dogs scratching and all this stuff, that people that will hear this backdrop, because things in the background, you don't know what's going on until people have conversations and open up, and we can honestly have dialogue. And so if I can do that, I want to do that. I want to make it plain. I want to get to people to share and to be open. And I really do appreciate that you've started something else, because I believe it's needed. And I don't think it's just you going through having your armor on the side. I think there are a lot of people, and especially during this time with the chaos that we're living through, all of us are living through, that we need to have voices that share the message of God. And I believe that is the opportunity that my news was the open door for this to start and other things to start. And I wanted to end to say thank you for this privilege and opportunity. As we turn to...
It is so funny how you, like, the transition. And I just want to say thank you. And here is my 2 books that I will be advertising.
She's like, so funny.
Oh my gosh.
But she's so true.
The segue was crazy.
Because, you know, I have to let you know that the reason why I give away everything free. Mm-hmm. Milkshake Monday is free. It does not generate revenue yet. Milkshake Monday Backdrop is free. We give it away in videos and podcasts in the future. But these books generate revenue. They cost money, thousands of dollars, and they have the anointing of the Lord's word in it. And so I have to say, buy the book, Fast and Hard. Buy the book, A Leap of Faith, Questionable Choices, on my website, or Matt's website, Tyner Effect, even though I want it to be mine, of course, because I need the revenue. He's got a job still. But
she is the reason why I went to college.
Yes, and I use my children all the time. I shouldn't say I use them. I leverage
that's the right word. That's the right word.
They are so good because I could not do this stuff without them. They are technology savvy. They have creative minds. They are always doers. They are wonderful. And I love them. I love my kids. I love all my family. And if God gives me something that they can do, because I know how to do stuff, but they know how to do stuff even better. But so that's what Milkshake Monday Backdrop. That was our premiere episode. And like every first, you know, we have some things to work out, but I believe the content of what we talked about has been helpful to me. Was it helpful to you, Faith?
Yeah. I think once we get started, we'll have more comfortable. Again, we just did this on the fly.
Yes,
today.
That's good on the fly. Yeah, because I have forgotten.
See how you're high pitched?
I know.
Good on the fly.
Sorry.
Your level versus my level right now of like where we're at. It's not aligning right now.
Well, the fun part about Backdrop is that it's at the end of the day, you know, and that's when you can be most comfortable. And you know, with me, Faith will say, Mom, don't do the interview, don't do the anchor woman voice, but that's my voice.
I kind of did that a little bit today because I honestly was just like, I
appreciate you were prepared, and I wanted to. I am so over prepared, so I didn't come with anything.
Yeah.
I just remembered what I taught last week because I taught something this week, and I had just come back from being away and coming straight into here, and I said, all right, this is the least prepared, so I'll just listen to what Faith has to say and just answer whatever she says.
Yeah, it's good.
And it worked out. So our plan is we're going to do the tapings on Thursday, and we'll start off with Faith for a while, and then others can send messages in, and we'll address messages that people put in.
Yeah, we'll have more like comfortable clothes, of course. Again, I just got off work, so.
And I just got back from an event. It's Holy Week, and so got back from church, but we will be very relaxed. I was relaxed.
You have more relaxed clothing. I just you see where I'm.
No, I think you look fine. But no, we will be relaxed, and I will still talk about the books.
Go ahead and buy the books, and
on Dōes Productions.
On Dōes Production. Oh, you gotta you can tell you've been reading this. And Fast and Hard, but on matthewtyners.org.
Oh no, I do Matt's on my book, on my website, and I have a few. I just met with Matt yesterday, and he signed a few of my books, so I have a handful of books that are signed by Matthew Tyner Sr. And so the bundle is $45.
Reading is definitely important, y'all.
And I have the Audible. If you don't like to read, I have the Audible. Anyway, I didn't mean to do a lot of advertisement. But Milkshake Monday Backdrop, sponsored by Dōes Productions. And we're just grateful for you to be here. And Lord willing, this is the premiere, and we'll only get better and better. So we love you, and we thank you for this opportunity, and God be praised. Talk to you later. I guess I'm the one that's going to cut it off since I'm the closest.